Welcome back to my channel, No Likes Needed. With all the graduations and stuff that's been going on, I've been kind of thinking for the kids, well, mostly my son because he's an 8th grader in middle school, this is going to be one of those years as a kid that sticks with them and they talk about for the rest of their life to their kids and to their grandkids about how long they was out of school. They're going to be like, man, when I was in middle school, I was out of school for half the school year. And we just got to stay home and go to sleep and do our classwork online and play video games till 3, 4 in the morning. Cause I know that's what most of y'all kids out there is doing. So it brought me back to thinking about all the stuff that I remember growing up as a 90s kid. Yes, I am a 90s kid. 80s babies, 90s kid. So we just gonna reminisce on pretty much all the stuff that I remember, not all of it, majority, a lot. I'm gonna try to make it real quick. But the stuff that I remember growing up as a kid in the 90s, you know, I'm not gonna hit everything. And people gonna be commenting, you know, oh, you missed this, what about that, what about that? That's cool, I want you guys to do that, you know what I'm saying? So we can have a fun conversation, so stay tuned. So growing up in California, Los Angeles area, me specifically Compton, things that I remember, I'm pretty much gonna be all across the 90s because, again, I'm just going to stick with that right now because my son's in middle school again, and I'm just going to talk about the stuff I remember when I was in middle school. First things that I remember as an early 90s kid was, of course, the LA riots. You know, that was a crazy time driving by and cars and stuff is on fire. You could feel the heat burning through your car on the street as you're passing the burning building and stuff like that. People hitting up Lay's and Snapple's trucks and stuff like that, taking food. That stuff was a crazy time. I remember that specifically, vividly, like it was just yesterday. Another thing that's, of course, an iconic LA thing that happened, you know, when the OJ case and him driving the OJ case and chase, him driving right down the street on a 91 freeway, and you just seeing the helicopters following his truck, and I'm looking at it from my backyard. The helicopters flying in like a V pattern, following his truck slow, and watching it simultaneously at the same time while on the TV while his car is passing on 91 freeway. I live like right down the street from 91 freeway. So that's another big thing I remember, like, whoa, this is a big deal. You know what I'm saying? I really didn't know who OJ was, you know what I'm saying? But of course, everyone in the whole wide world does know today. Also, another thing, a California thing, Southern California thing that I remember super vividly as a kid growing up in the 90s was the Northridge earthquake that happened, I believe, on Martin Luther King's birthday or the day after, or it was Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday early that morning, I believe. And me and my sister had fell asleep in the living room, and we had these sectional couches set up where you can like put them all together. I'm sure you guys know what a sectional couch is, you know, but you had extra pieces, ottomans that we bought, and it was like a big ass bed. And a lot of times we would go fall asleep in there after watching, you know, of course, the dope 90 movies and stuff like that. Now, that's one thing I'm probably not going to talk about too much is 90 movies, because that shit will take literally all day. And there's a ton of iconic 90 movies, you know, one just being Friday. You know, you can't, 90s Friday, that's probably like the most iconic 90s movie ever. If we're talking about in general, 90s Friday, probably Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 1 and 2, Secret of the Ooze, that was my shit. And probably, you know, some Disney movies. You know what I'm saying? There's a ton of iconic Disney movies, but that just stands out for me personally. It's probably Friday and both Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, but that's probably all I'm going to speak about on 90s movies. Like I said, that shit will take forever. But going on, what else do I remember from the 90s that just sticks out? The North Hollywood shooting, that shit was crazy. I remember watching that on TV, and for whatever reason, I must not have went to school, or maybe we was out, because our schedule for kids in California, we was like on a weird ass track schedule where we was out for long periods of time too. But I just remember watching that shit, sitting on the edge of my bed like, whoa, this is real? This is really going on? Bad Boy and Death Row Records. Everybody remembers that growing up in the 90s. How could you forget, especially if you was on the East or West Coast? Me living in Compton, California, I was right in the center of it all, pretty much, almost, for the most part, especially when Pac got killed.
City.
Any artists out there want to be an artist and want to stay a star, don't want to have to worry about the executive producer trying to be all in the videos, all on the record, dancing. Come to Death Row.
That shit was crazy. Living in Compton at that time, a whole bunch of shit was going down. And I remember that shit as a kid, like, whoa, the streets is super dumbass hot. You know, I mean, it was already hot in the 90s regardless, but when that shit went down, it was amplified times 10. But anyway, that's all the negative stuff. We're gonna talk about the fun stuff that we remember growing up in the 90s, that probably everybody, no matter if you was on the East or West Coast, lived in a different country, you probably would notice, or not notice, remember these things growing up in the 90s as a kid. Not every kid was able to go to amusement parks in the 90s like how probably a lot of people do today. Some kids probably still don't have the chance to visit Disneyland or Disney World or Six Flags or SeaWorld or Universal Studios, whatever the case may be. But a dope place to go that probably sticks out in your memory as a kid was not Chuck E. Cheese. No, Chuck E. Cheese was how it is today. Whatever. The place to go was...
Running swing here? I don't think so. Climb and slide here? I don't think so. Then where? I'm going DZ at Discovery Zone, where I can cut loose and be on my own.
DZ is made just for me, the place where I can really cut loose. It's all here.
Jump and tumble here? I don't think so. I'm going DZ, where kids wanna be.
Discovery Zone. DZ, if you had a chance to go to DZ for that little period of time in the 90s, oh my God, DZ was the shit. Some of these new kids talking about, what the fuck is DZ? Discovery Zone, bro. That was the place. That was like 3 times better than Chuck E. Cheese by far. It was awesome. And then, you know, also we had the Dream Team. I mean, like, come on, dude. That's probably like one of the, if not the best team ever assembled in the 90s. And we got to watch them play. You know what I'm saying? With all these stars, mega superstar athlete basketball players in the 90s. The Dream Team was super hyped and was super legit and was about that business. Jordan, MJ, Bird, come on, Malone, Dave Robinson, Barkley, the list goes on. If you got to watch the Dream Team when it was really happening, to really feel the vibe and the atmosphere of watching those games in the Olympics, that was something special to watch as a kid in the 90s. And speaking of the Dream Team, look at this picture right here. Look at how Patrick Ewing is looking at Jordan in this picture. Everyone else is smiling, except for Ewing is looking at MJ like, this is the first time I've ever been over you. Let me enjoy this moment, or should I drop kick the shit out of your ass? Because everyone knows how many times Jordan has banged on Ewing. And yeah, he's looking like, yeah, I remember that shit, and I should fuck you up right now.
Michael double teamed on the drive, in from the left, gets chased into the corner, comes right back. Down! Through the foul! Wow! Oh, powerhouse, JD. There's a poster play, folks.
But I'm going to hold my composure, but it's really hard for me to hold my composure because I'm over you right now, and this is my chance to take you out. And I'm thinking about doing it. You have iconic TV shows. Now, I said I wasn't going to talk too much about movies so much, but TV shows, we got to hit the TV shows. The iconic TV shows, of course, will be Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. That was, okay, so we'll do it like this. We'll talk about the stuff that went on during the week, TV shows leading up to the weekend cartoon, Saturday morning cartoons. That's like forever 90s kids drained and drilled and cemented in the 90s kids memory is Saturday morning cartoons. But leading up to that, all week long, we would watch Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, probably arguably one of the dopest shows ever created. Martin, everybody knows Martin as a 90s kid. If you don't know Martin, I don't know what country you was living in, because Martin the Fresh Prince, what more probably did you need? I think every race watched one of those, if not both of those shows. What else? You had both of those shows that you can pretty much watch every day of the week for the most part, I remember. And then Friday, when you got out of school, everybody knows what I'm talking about. When it comes to Friday night, you had TGIF.
It's Friday night, and the mood is right. We're gonna have some fun, show you how it's done, TGIF. Hello.
On ABC, that block was like super fire for years in the 90s. You had Family Matters, Full House, Step by Step, Boy Meets World, Sabrina the Teenage Witch. Man, I mean, just those shows I named alone, those was probably like the core 5. I think I just named 5. I don't remember. But that name, those shows right there was like the shit. You come home from school, and if you wasn't playing those sports as a kid at a park, you know TGIF was the lick. You know what I'm saying? Because every weekend, I mean, before every weekend, you had TGIF, which was dope. And Disney Plus, you guys need to put that block, TGIF, on Disney Plus. Just saying. I mean, because that would be dope. And it would also be dope if you guys put it only on Fridays. So you wouldn't be able to watch any of those shows any other time except for Fridays. Now, that would be dope and have a nostalgic feeling. And it would be like, you could binge watch any of the shows, but you can also have it in the block where it shows it on this day, 1994, 1995. These 6 shows showed on TGIF. And you're just watching it as if it was 1994, 5 or 6. And you're watching TGIF in those string of shows. That would be dope. Just saying. Think about it, Disney. That would be awesome. And going into Saturday morning's cartoons, after you just had a blast Friday night watching TGIF with your siblings, or even if you was a only child, you know what I'm saying? You had the greatest Saturday morning experience of all times. You know what I'm saying? Like, Saturday mornings as a kid was special. Today, I think Saturday mornings to you guys, to like the current generation, is just like, okay, yay, it's Saturday, but you guys don't really have much to look forward to unless you play in sports or have a game to play. But you will wake up at a certain time, grab your bowl of cereal, eat your cereal, read the back of the box of the cereal, whichever cereal you was eating. Me probably was Captain Crunch or Frosted Flakes. Great. Tony the Tiger, Cinnamon Toast Crunch, Golden Grahams, Honeycombs, you know, just to name a few. But then you would just watch all the epic, iconic 90s cartoons that existed in the 90s, starting with like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can't leave them out. You know what I mean? That's just, still to this day, they still popping. You know, you had the Power Rangers. You know what I'm saying? Like, dude, the first core of Power Rangers is the best group of Power Rangers. And I'm just saying that because it's true. But I'm sure the kids that's watched Power Rangers in 2009 thinks that their group of Power Rangers is the best group of Power Rangers. I'm letting you know right now that you're wrong. If it wasn't for those first group of Power Rangers, there would be no Power Rangers after them because they would have canceled the show. Just letting you know. You had Batman animated series. You had X-Men. Oh my God, that cartoon was super legit. You know what I'm saying? That was like the first real cartoon that even adults were watching as a kid. Does that make sense? Adults was watching it pretending that they were kids, or they was watching it because they felt like a kid or because it was just that damn good. That's all I'm going to say. They was watching it because it was just that damn good of a cartoon. You had adults watching it and not missing it because it was a storyline every single weekend.
Previously on X-Men.
And it kept going. That was awesome. You know what I'm saying? Like, today's cartoons, they really don't string together that much. At least not the ones that they show on TV. Not to say that they're not bad, because I still watch some cartoons every once in a while, but it wasn't like X-Men. I'm sure there's up for debate. But what else were there? I said Batman and animated series. I said X-Men. I said Power Rangers. I mean, but shit, what more do I need to say with just those groups of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles? And then like later on, as the day went on and the cartoons start to fade off, you know what I'm saying? Either you probably would go outside and play, you know what I'm saying? Then you had another iconic TV show that started off on Saturdays and then went to the week, during the week, I think. Yeah, if I remember correctly, was no other than Saved by the Bell, bro. After Saved by the Bell went off, then as a kid, you can go outside and play because no one was really watching California Dreaming or California Dreams after Saved by the Bell went off. The dope Nickelodeon shows, you know, like Guts. Oh my God, I wanted to be on Guts so bad as a little kid because I was an athlete. I was working on my game, my baseball and my basketball game, and Guts was all for athletic kids. It was like the junior version of American Gladiators. That's a whole nother different 90s show, which was pretty iconic too. And since we're talking about American Gladiators, I'll just speak on it real quick because American Gladiators was one of the funniest shows on earth to me. And it was supposed to be funny, but I think it just got funny because you would have all these super bodybuilders and then they would be going up against regular average Joes or somewhat ex-athletes, and they would just be fucking them up on the show. And then every blue moon, you would watch an episode of American Gladiators, and some average Joe who wasn't really an average Joe, who was actually about that life and, you know, could compete and was a real athlete, played some type of college ball and did something with his life and went on the show and would beat them. Not by a lot, but barely would beat them. And then the American Gladiators would be pissed. That shit was hilarious. And they had like these dope names like Turbo, Siren, Hawk, Saber. Dope names like that. Anyway. But anyway, back to Guts. Guts was just like that, but for kids, and you really wasn't competing against other teenagers. I mean, that was like trying to stop you like American Gladiators. You were going against other teens that you were just trying to beat in a score or time. And at the end, they gave you this big ass glowing rock, because that was like the last level. I think you have what they call it, the crag. You have to go climb this big ass mountain, and you can get lost and shit, and you have to reach the top of the mountain and hit the button, and then you are the champion of the show, and you will raise this big ass glowing rock of a trophy, and then like Guts. And they played like this cool 90s music. Dun, 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 dun. Guts. That was this show right there. I mean, shit. Now we just on Nickelodeon, man. Like, you had Doug when Doug was brand new. We was the first people to watch Doug and Rugrats, the 90s kids. We know we was the first generation to start that. You had Wild and Crazy Kids. You had Hey Dude. Another thing about Wild and Crazy Kids, that was on the show I wanted to be on. And that show didn't last that long, that many years. It was maybe like 3 years, 3 seasons or some shit like that. But that show always looked like it was so fun. And I think they used to always show it only during the summertime. And it would make your ass just want to go out and play at the park on a slip and slide, throw water balloons, shoot a Super Soaker. Another 90s reference. The Super Soaker was brand new to us in the 90s. Do they even still make? I think they still make Super Soakers. I think I saw one in Target and I was like super shocked and I wanted to buy it, but I didn't buy it. I should have bought it. I probably will go back and buy it. But going back, you had Hey Dude, you had What Would You Do, you had Arcade, you had Double Dare. You know, Nickelodeon was the shit, bro. You know, I kind of feel sorry for these new generation of kids. I mean, but maybe they feel sorry for us because we have to wait to watch it. They can watch it anytime they want to. but they don't have these iconic shows to them. It's not as special because they can watch it anytime they want to. And we had to wait, and it was glorious, and it was awesome, and it was worth it. Being a 90s kid was great. That's all I'm saying. And I'm jumping all over the place with the Nickelodeon shows and just everything in general in the 90s, because as I'm talking more shit, I'm remembering being a 90s kids, and it's just fucking phenomenal just going back and reliving that. It's like I'm really wish I could put you in my brain right now so you could see what I saw if you wasn't growing up in the 90s. But the people who grew up in the 90s knows exactly what I'm talking about. But you had Legends of the Hidden Temple. That show was awesome as shit as a 90s kid watching on Nickelodeon. And then something that was just still, since we're still on Saturday morning cartoons, I think we're still on Saturday period in general. How could you, even though this wasn't just a Saturday thing, but my parents most of the time I wouldn't be able to get on it a lot was, well, I wasn't able to get on it a lot until only on Saturday mornings, was America Online. Just think about that. We were like the first group of people to start the internet. Without America Online, none of this YouTube shit would exist, son. I'm just being honest with you. America Online was the greatest invention ever, and if you had a 56K dial-up modem, your shit was like 4G, 5G today. That was equivalent. A 56K modem back then in the 90s was equivalent to 4G and 5G today. Your internet speed was popping, son. And then the iconic dial-up. Oh my God. If your shit took too long dialing up, you just know you wasn't getting on. And then I think that little sad face would come across. But when the little man was running, and when they got real fast, when the American Line became the shit, and they speeded up the shit, and his legs started going real fast. And American Online, you've got mail. Welcome, you've got mail. And it's so much to think about. You know, it's kind of hard to really go off of it, and because so much stuff is going in my head through the 90s right now. But wrestling in the 90s was the shit. I think that was probably the best time ever to be watching wrestling in the 90s. When you had WWF, when it was still called WWF, and you had Stone Cold, you had The Rock, The Undertaker. I think he's still wrestling, but The Undertaker, when The Undertaker was The Undertaker, you know what I'm saying? You had all these iconic guys. You had Monday Night Raw, WCW Nitro, when they was going back and forth, the Wrestling Wars. You know, you had NWO and Hulk Hogan. You know what I'm saying? You had Sting. You had Generation X. Oh my God. Wrestling was the shit in the 90s. You would watch your, what was it? Monday Night Raw, WCW Nitro. Then you have to wait until Thursday night SmackDown. Dude, SmackDown, I remember when SmackDown was brand new in the 90s. When they launched that shit, it was like, dude, great, I don't have to wait until a whole another fucking week to watch some more wrestling. I get to watch Thursday night SmackDown. It was awesome. And WCW didn't have shit on Thursdays. It was just WWF. So I think that's why WWF was slightly my favorite at the time, even though Sting was with WCW and he was one of my favorites, and NWO was with WCW. They was my favorite little clique, you know what I'm saying? But you couldn't beat the Stone Cold Steve Austin and The Rock storylines back then. I don't even think, still to this day, I don't watch wrestling today, but it was dope in the 90s. Also, some more stuff that we started in the 90s was like when video games has always been dope, especially like the first Nintendo and the first Sega Genesis. Sega! You know, those was classic, iconic. systems, the NES, you know what I'm saying, Super Nintendo. But when the N64 dropped and the PlayStation dropped, that took video games to a whole nother level. That's just like comparing flip phones to an iPod, to an iPhone today. Yeah, it's nice, you know what I'm saying? You had your little Motorola Razr, but that's cool. Don't get me wrong, but it's not as dope as an iPhone. You know what I'm saying? That's what I'm comparing it to. When the N64 drops and the PlayStation drops, it changed the game for real. My two favorite games, I was more of an N64 person before I converted to PlayStation, and I'll get to that story in a little bit. My favorite two games of all times, if I had to just pick two games to play on N64 forever, one would be Star Fox 64.
Do a barrel roll.
My guy, even though Star Fox was was obviously the main guy. Star Fox was dope, but Falco just had the attitude. He was G. And of course, the real is dopest first person shooter game of all time that started all this shit was 007 GoldenEye. Everyone knows that. I mean, dude, if you didn't play 007 GoldenEye, you don't know what you're missing. Just do yourself a favor. Go buy yourself an N64 off eBay or some shit and get GoldenEye. You'll thank me later. The graphics and shit was hilarious with the little block squared head. They all look like Minecraft characters before Minecraft existed. That shit's dope. And those graphics was dope as shit back in the day. Also, just, honorable mention, since I was just talking about wrestling, that WWF Warzone game was pretty iconic. I remember I used to get a kick out of Stone Cold cussing, "Oh, hell yeah," and shit like, "You're about to get your ass whipped." I would just keep that shit on loud, play it loud as shit, turn it up loud, and just keep doing the taunts over and over again. That shit used to tickle me. It was hilarious back then.
Someone's gonna get their ass whipped.
Because that was, besides like Duke Nukem, fuck, I can't even think of his name.
Time to kick ass and chew bubble gum, and I'm all out of gum.
Duke Nukem. Anyway, that was like the real first game to me that I had that actually had cussing in it. I'm sure there was ones before that besides Duke Nukem. Damn, I can't think of his name. But yeah, that shit was hilarious. In the future, they have time machines. Do yourself a favor. Just take a trip back to 1995, 96. You can start there. Because 95 was probably, at least in LA, things were starting to chill out and everyone's having a good time. And then you had the dopest kicks was probably right around 95, 96, 97, 98. The Jordans 11s, the iconic shoes, are probably, of all Jordans, the 11s came out in 95, November 10th, 1995. How do I know that off the top of my dome? But I do. That's my son's birthday, by the way, too. November 10th, not 1995, obviously. But anyway, I think that does it for the things that I remember growing up in the 90s. And while I was a kid in middle school. Hope you guys have a good time. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Stay tuned for more videos that'll be coming as I get time to sit down and edit. And on to the next one. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Goodbye.